Hey sightseers, it's Sally, and I'm really excited because I'm heading out on a road trip this morning. I got up at 5 a.m., which is not my normal time to get up, to make a special trip out to this place that I think you're going to find very interesting. It has a very unusual backstory, and just to give you a brief highlight of that, it was built for somebody that passed away, or who passed away before they even got to live in it. And at some point there was a mysterious fire. That's all I'm going to tell you for now, because once we get there I'll go into a lot more detail about what happened in the history of this place. So with that in mind, if I don't see you before then, I'll see you when we get there. Hey sightseers, so we've arrived, and as I had alluded to, the place that we're at has a very interesting backstory. Built in 1939, a widow by the name of Jenny Peters. She was the widow of a lawyer and inventor from Chicago by the name of Frank Peters. She built this place for her daughter, Jane. Jane unfortunately passed away before the building was complete. So Mrs. Frank, Jenny, actually had to move in here by herself. After about 9 years, she then gave the property over to the Alexian brothers. This was at the request or the wishes of her late husband, as he had developed a relationship or a fondness for the Alexian brothers from growing up next to one of their hospitals in Chicago. So, with that, why don't we go and explore some of this wonderful and amazing property? So here's the amazing building behind me that Mrs. Frank built for her daughter Jane. Unfortunately, Jane passed away. I believe it was a few weeks before they were set to move in. So why don't we go take a closer look and check out the inside. One thing I ought to mention is that this place is actually located on private property. The individual that you happen to see in the background cutting grass is actually the caretaker. I did obtain permission from the owner to be on the premises, and in interest of protecting the owner's privacy, I am not going to reveal the how and where I obtained permission. I think it's important to maintain privacy of my sources. So this is the mansion that Mrs. Frank built for her daughter Jane. It was completed in 1939. Unfortunately, I believe it was a few weeks before they were set to move in, Jane passed away. So Jenny, that would be Mrs. Frank, moved into the mansion by herself. So, as you can see, the structure is amazing. The architecture is just gorgeous. So if you just take a minute to imagine what it must have looked like when it was first built, how gorgeous it was. So looking at this building, you can see the craftsmanship that's displayed here. The hand-carved limestone and the fluted columns. And then over to my left, you can see what was likely the conservatory. So we're standing at what I believe would have been the main entrance And now we're going to go take a closer look on the inside to see what is really left of this beautiful place. I'm standing here and it's like it goes up for another 20 feet in the air. It's just amazing. Very beautiful. So we're inside. As you can see, this place is amazing. It's just gorgeous in here. And looking out, you can see the fireplace and the remains of an old picture. Unfortunately, what was there is rotted away, but you can see the frame that the picture, the old-time painting, the painting was stretched out on. So now I'm just going to kind of walk around and show you. This building has 3 floors plus a full basement. So you can just get an idea of really how large this mansion was, or is. As you follow me around, you'll notice this former mansion has been essentially gutted. Whether it's the result of looters or the mysterious fire, I'm not really sure. I think the area I'm exploring right now would have been the location of the kitchen. I base that on the assumption that, one, if you look at the stairs going up, they're not fancy by any means, which would have been typical of mansions having servants, to allow the servants to move effortlessly between floors without being seen necessarily. So based on that, I'm guessing I'm now going upstairs using the servants' stairs. In just a few moments, you're going to catch a glimpse of the staircase that I believe was used by the family. It looks more grand than the set of stairs we just went up. So we're up on the 2nd floor now. One thing I want to point out is it's very unfortunate that a lot of graffiti and damage has been done to this place. To me, if you're going to come and explore something along the lines, something that you don't own, why would you destroy it? It's just my own personal soapbox on that. So I'm standing here on the second floor above what I believe would have been the conservatory. And you're looking out, you can see the waterfalls behind me. And you just think how beautiful and picturesque it must have been back in the day. And I find it really unfortunate that this building has decayed to this point. One thing that I didn't get to when talking about the history is that, okay, so Mrs. Frank signed over the property to the Alexian brothers. Now the Alexian brothers were here for a number of years. It would have been roughly from 1949 to, I believe it was until 1972. So what happened is during the early 60s, some changes came about in the church, which at that point they decided that it would be best to move the brotherhood. So after a period of time, obviously they've had a caretaker here on site to close up and make final preparations to put the property up for sale. Then in the 70s, an unfortunate incident took place. A local Native American tribe, a few of them, calling themselves the Menominee Warriors, decided that they wanted to claim the property for themselves. And in doing so, they took the caretaker and his family hostage. And after about 2 months of holding the caretaker and his family hostage and basically staging here on the property, trying to force a takeover of it, the Alexian brothers decided to work a deal with them and offered it to the tribe for a certain sum of money. Unfortunately, the tribe wasn't able to procure the funds to purchase the property. And so at that point, the Alexian brothers were looking to find another buyer, essentially. Then a few months later, after this incident took place with the hostile takeover, then a mysterious fire broke out. And as we walk through, you can see the damage to the building that occurred because of the fire. Now, it is my understanding from the research I did that the fire that broke out here was the result of arson, which then brings some questions to my mind, at least. One, is this arson in any way, shape, or form related to the events that transpired several months before with the attempt at the takeover? And if so, was it done motivated by sour grapes over not being able to obtain the land? Or was it more driven by the attempt to further devalue the property in order to make it more affordable for purchase? Obviously, I don't have the answers to those questions, and it is quite possible that the arson is totally unrelated to the events that occurred here. However, it does make you wonder what really took place. So this is the third floor, and as you can see, not much left to it. I believe this here on the third floor is the location of where some of the hostile takeover took place during the time period where the Menominee Warrior group had the caretaker and his family held hostage. So we're back on the first floor. we'll just take another quick look around down here, and then we'll take a little tour of the grounds around the outside. Those would be the stairs to the basement. As you can see, not very safe, so we're not going to venture down there today. As we walk this way, we're going to be entering into what I believe used to be the conservatory. And looking out, I wonder, did Mrs. Peters, I know I keep getting her name messed up, I keep calling her Mrs. Frank. Her husband's first name was Frank, her last name Peters. So Mrs. Peters or Jenny probably sat out here drinking her coffee or her tea, looking out over at the beautiful lawn and the waterfall in the background. It also kind of reminds me of a game I used to play, some of you might be familiar with it, called Clue. And I often like to place Professor Plum in the conservatory with the candlestick as the main suspect. We're going to be peeking into what looks like a closet-sized commode. This is the one room that I saw in here that indicates there must have been some sort of modern plumbing in the mansion. I'm guessing that most of the plumbing, depending on what it was made of, was probably stripped out at some point. Oh look, it's a ghost! Just kidding, that's my travel partner. If I had to make a guess, I would think that this probably was the entryway that the servants use to enter and exit the building. So this is another look at the building. This would be the left side of it and more of a back view of it. So that concludes our tour of the abandoned mansion. I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed being there. It was quite the rare opportunity. I was able to gain permission to go on site from the owner and was able to get there thanks to his awesome groundskeeper. One last thing, if you haven't already, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. Make sure you give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and help me out by telling a friend. Share my videos on your social media. Again, thank you for watching. I appreciate your views, and I'm Sightseeing Sally.